Hey guys, it's like ruler here. So I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving in the United States and happy random Thursday at the end of November to the rest of the world if you're watching outside the US. I'm recording this on Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, and as of this point, Fanduel has Friday slate up, but it doesn't have anything for um, Thursday, which is kind of strange. And DK, the contests are I was kind of disappointed when the slate finally came up because contests were kind of small compared to what they had for the Friday Frenzy. But, anyways, at this point, we've got a 6 game slate. We've got 2 teams with COVID concerns, which could knock it down to a 4 game slate. But we'll cover everything. And then as news breaks, we'll let you know. So just want to remind you that to check us out on FSSDFS.com. We've got lots of great content to help you become a better daily fantasy player. There's a lot of stuff if you go on the site and join our Discord that's free. And most of these videos that we're putting out on YouTube here are all free, great content. So if you like what we're doing and it's helping you out, the best thing you can do for us is subscribe if you haven't. Get some friends to subscribe and give us some likes, share it so others can see what we're doing here to help you guys out. Okay, first game up on Thursday's slate is going to be actually a pretty good game. The slate kicks off at noon, or tips off at noon. It's not football. And it's going to be Real Madrid against CSK Moscow. And a nice total, and it should be a good game between these two top teams. So, biggest news is that Campazzo has been signed by the Denver Nuggets. So, most likely, I'd probably say about 90% that he won't be playing, that he's done with the team. The only thing that really intrigues me is I don't see him listed as out on DK. He's still on the roster on the EuroLeague website, and he signed on the 20th, and then the 22nd, he still played in domestic league game. So there's maybe a 10% chance that he still plays, but if he does, I would treat it as a GPP, and we'll get into that because there's so many like high-end good guard options on this when you're dealing with 12 teams if everybody plays. So I don't think he's necessary. His farewell tour went really well. He had a couple smash games to wrap up his EuroLeague career. And but if he is in, we don't know if he's going to have minute restriction, if they're going to try to get other guys involved, knowing that he's definitely leaving. So I wouldn't be looking for him. So who to look for? Well, I believe Carroll should start. He's had a few down games, but he should be playable in cash in this game. Points should be split probably between Lou, who's like a veteran. He was the MVP of the league, I think, in 16 or 17. So good player there. Lapro, he had that huge smash game in round 3 where he just couldn't miss. He's been on the fringe of the rotation since, so but he's talented. And Alcine is a teenager that's the future of the team. So I think if Lou starts, that's why he has the blue S here. Green S's are that they're most likely going to start, projected to start. Yellow S's are that they're questionable to start. They could start if they're in. It could be injury or other circumstances. And the blue is kind of sometimes where you get down to where it might be between a couple players. So I got a blue S, so I think Lou will get the start just with his veteran experience. Will start there, but I wouldn't be surprised if Lapo got it, or if for some reason they used Alcine. So Lapo starting is definitely a decent value. I think he's like 10 to 15 if Campo is definitely gone. Alcine has started a couple games. He hasn't broken 10. He didn't play domestically. It was a DNP coach's decision. He could be the sleep breaker if they give him an opportunity. He's like $100 above minimum. But again, he might not even break 10 points. So he doesn't really need much to make value. He'd definitely be a deep YOLO GPP dart if you wanted to try to play him. Looking at the front court, I think Randolph's really going to pick up as like the leader of this team, and he's played really well the last couple of rounds. I think he feels underpriced. To me, I think should be a 9K player. You had him at 77. Um, Tavares faces a tough matchup, but he should get the right cash and has some upside definitely. Balde is on the fringe right now, but he even though he's listed as a forward, he started at the 2, so I could see him coming in, kind of be a playmaker. If you look with system on the team, obviously Campo's there, but if you look besides the guards, like he's really um, getting some dimes there too. So being a facilitator, so he's someone that could come in to maybe try to help create some offense for the team, get other people involved. So that could definitely help him out. Even off the bench, he's getting minutes, so I feel okay with him there in cash. Tompkins is way overpriced right now at 91. Like he hasn't done much. It seems like Tavares has come alive. He took over his starting spot. Tompkins hasn't started a couple rounds, and he's still got the potential. He could go off at any time, but he's not who he was in the beginning of the season, or has the opportunities. One of the two, either he's in the slump or it's just the opportunity. Other guys have raised their game and are getting more rotational minutes. It's these Spanish backcourts are deep. Front courts are very deep. They're very talented. They're super teams. So the guys have lots of options. They play lots of games. So there's rotation. So um, Taylor is back now from his injury. Costa came back also. Uh, Rudy Fernandez is going to be out. So I don't really think, Deck had that one smash game, and I could see Taylor or Costa maybe once in a blue moon having a slate breaking huge game, but you can never pin down when it's going to come. So I wouldn't even consider them options on such a huge slate. Dak, he's continued to start. Again, I had the one smash game, but he's around 12 DK points or less regularly, so that's a fade for me. Gruba, I still think he's GPP worthy. He's another teen, very talented, great rebounder, glass eater, can get some blocks. Sometimes they have him start, gets a decent rotational minutes, anywhere from like 15 to 17 minutes. So again, he's just a little bit above what I'd like for a value. The values I usually set at like 5,500, but somebody you could potentially consider. So that wraps up Real. Let's look at CSK. Again, total on this game is pretty decent, and CSK, the line actually moved. It was 5, and then it went to 6.5. So I think maybe that's shown us definitely that they thought maybe Composite would play a little bit of a role, but now that he probably is not going to play. You got two guys out. He hasn't really played this year, a little playing, and Sterlinkus, I thought him coming back might hurt the guards a little bit, but he's listed as out for tomorrow. Milutinov cored him last time he played, and he just went ham. His price really didn't jump too high, so I'm really like him. I think he's maybe a cash lock at over 3x potential, even though it could be a difficult matchup against this front court. He's been playing well since he came back from COVID. They eased him into it, and 7,900 is just way too low for him. Shangela had a down game last round with Voigtman back from injury, and they play the same position, power forward. That might eat into his production. He only had 4 points and 3 boards domestically. Shangela also, he had 4 fouls, so maybe the foul trouble was the issue there. So that didn't help. So I'm GPP. He's borderline in cash. He's a good player, definitely has the potential, but just in this matchup, I don't know if he doesn't make me feel secure to put him in a cash line. He's definitely got 10K talent, and he's only 7,400. So definitely, if he plays up to his potential, he's definitely a steal, but can't guarantee that's going to happen this round. So Voigtman back should be good to go. He could have some potential at GPP. Bullen Boy at 20 minutes can be a value GPP at 5K. only fear now is how well Mutinov has been doing. Kind of seems to be eating into his production, and with Voigtman back too, this front court's starting to get a little crowded. As for guards, Mike James is on a solid streak. Should continue in this matchup, starting or not, especially with no Campazzo. They really not a bad backcourt defensively, but just not a stellar one either. Hillard has definitely showed some consistency, so I could see him in cash also, with Strankla still being out. And then we have Hackett, he's had some super high upside games, super high ceiling games, but he just doesn't have the flame floor as Hillard does. So I think he's more of a GPP, but both those guys have had smash games throughout the season, and definitely can get there. But for safety wise, with the $200 separating them, I'd prefer Hillard over Hackett. And I think that pretty much takes care. Well, Clyburn, I think he's definitely probably a cash play. Also, on the fringe, I like that he's 89. Like, he was a 10K player quite a bit, especially before he got injured last year. So, yeah, not a bad price for this slate, but there's some other guys that are kind of better in that range. I think today's a day that you might want to pay up for a couple of really good guards, and then maybe take some more value forwards. So moving on to the next game is going to be Ephes and Cesta. This game is in question. Ephes on a couple days ago is up to 4 COVID cases on the team and a bunch of injuries. So there's no line on this game on Bovada at this point, which makes me kind of concerned that it's going to be postponed. Should be a close game with all the injuries and with all the guys out. So Mikik's out. Here's back. Babios still has an eye injury. Xavier Police, I think they might have tested for COVID. Dunstan's out also with the injury. So you take those known guys out without anybody else getting sick or having other injuries, and that's a 41.3% of usage. So that's almost half, 40% is pretty large chunk up for grabs there. So definitely it's probably going to start with the guards, Larkin and Simon. Definitely cash game plays. I think Larkin's going to have such high ownership, very expensive, but has the most opportunity to score the most raw points and actually make value and get above value, especially in this situation. They're going to need him. He looks to be back. He looks to be playing well. So there's a lot of good things there. Simon also had a great game last game out against Maccabi, and I see him having a really good game against this weaker side also. Probably one of the best values on the slate at 47 is going to be Balbe. I think he had like 20 DK points last time. He should be getting close to that, so 3 to 4x right there. They don't really have any other guards to play. Tunser Ghazi, if they could get the random start for some reason or get some more rotation minutes, could be some value darts, but I have them listed as fades because I just really don't think they're going to get there. But at like 34 and 33, if they get 10 DK points, and that's like almost 3x value. So let's just plug it in and just make sure if he gets 10 DK points, that puts him at 294. So that's close enough to 3. That's decent, but so it's only 10 points. So what that's really going to do is that's going to solidify at 10 points in your lineup, but open up for you to pay up for some other people. Definitely not slate breakers there. All three of the forwards definitely look like they're a good cash. So don't know if Mormon or Singleton will start. Anderson should start at 3. They're all playable in cash with the situation. Obviously, whoever starts is in the better spot. With Please out, Sandley, he's had a very rough start to the season. He was injured a little bit, hasn't done much this year, but he's in a really good spot. And if Balbay's not the best play of the slate for a value, then he definitely could be at 42. If he recaptures his form from last year when Please was out, and it was around this time of year too, it was around Thanksgiving time, if I recall. He could definitely be 3 to 5x and definitely be in a smash spot. Geising is the only other one that I consider maybe. Definitely a fringe rotational player, but he's healthy and he could possibly get, if he can get 9 points, DK points, and at like 31, that's like 3x right there. So this team could have a lot of value, but then again, the game could get canceled. So hopefully we find out some news on this before lock. Okay, let's look at the other side of Zvezda. Take the color off. Tearing, I don't know why they're blue. It doesn't really matter. No injuries. Might have a better chance of keeping this game close with all the FS injuries. And it's a pace-up game for them. So Lloyd had a really bad game last time out, but he was against a very, very tough defense. So we'll cut him some slack on that one, especially against this depleted team, even though FS shut down Chevette and pretty much the Kimchi guards last round. I think that these guys should do decent, at least Lloyd. I'd rather pay for Larkin or James. Possibly some other guards on the slate. So Lloyd will probably have some low ownership. So I'm saying this last couple of rounds where somebody statistically seems like a cash play, but logistically they're really going to be a GPP play because the ownership you want to get like Larkin if he's playing in that situation and cash over Lloyd. So Lloyd would be the pivot, but you're risking if Larkin does go off and Lloyd struggles, then if you don't have that, then you're dead in the water. So might be more of a block play in cash than we're in a GPP line. You want that differentiation in case Larkin doesn't go off or the game does get canceled. And well, if the game does get canceled, they're playing each other, so it doesn't really matter anyways. Neither one would be on the slate. Anyways, back to looking at the guards. Hall, he was on fire when he started out, and he's just like completely declined. He only gets like 10 to 12 DK points a game, so keep on his GPP. One more time, I'm not quite ready to put him on a fade yet. He's almost to the point where he's like dipping below the 55, so he'd be a value play. So not a priority, but if he fits in your line or if you're doing some stack of the game or something, that he works. But I think Walden's a little bit more consistent than Hall. I'd take him over that. He's a GPP player because he's been falling below value the last couple of slates also. Rochester, also, and this might be hurting him too. He came out and was decent. Like he wasn't a super strong player, but he would make value. He's a nice little value play to throw in there at 45 or sub 5K when he first came around. Then he had a couple rounds where he got like less than like 1 point. I think he had like a negative one of the games. But he seems to bounce back and he seems to be anywhere in that 10 to 12 range. So that's decent for a value player, 45. If he fits in, so he could, I'm sure there's, we talked about on the other side of the game, there's like better value plays, but he's somebody to think about. Lasik starts, he plays like 5 minutes, does absolutely nothing. He could quite possibly be one of the worst starters in the history of European League basketball. So don't touch him. Don't fall for the trap. Just because he starts doesn't mean anything. As soon as he plays a little bit, and then other people come in and take over and play most of the game. Looking at the front court, if Terry continues to start and he's at 6K, he's a nice cheap cash play with 3x value, especially if you're trying to get two of those over 10K studs in your lineup. JOB, Johnny O'Brien, he is flattened. He's at 76, which I think is efficiently priced for him. Not super excited on this slate. He is against a depleted team, though, so that might give him an opportunity to go off, but he's struggled a little bit in recent slates. Not starting anymore. If he gets to start, I'd kind of like him better. Might consider him in cash at 76, but at this point, I think he's GPP. There's some safer plays in that range. So MJK, Marco Karidza here. Who else do we have? Reith and Davidovic. They're a GPP value plays, but on such a large slate. And some of the other guys I point out in the office, like Sanley, definitely are much better plays. So I don't think you really need them for this one. Okay, so next up at 1 o'clock is, and this if this FS game plays, it's also at 1 o'clock. So there's two games that tip off at 1 after the first one tipping off at noon. So let's look at Zenit. It's both the teams. It's Zalgiris and Zenit. So let's look at Zenit first. They just played Monday and did pretty well. They played Baskonia. It was a makeup game. Pangos, he continues to be cash playable. What big thing with him is he's right at like 10 points per game, but he's getting the assists. Like he's almost getting double-digit assists. He's almost getting more assists than points in a game, but he's really close to averaging a double-double. So someone definitely to consider in cash. 86 is a little bit steeper than I'd be looking for probably the second guard, but if you want a little bit different roster construction than like trying to put in two studs, he's definitely someone that you could do there and then pay up a little bit more forward. Hollins, I think, is a great value play at the other guard. He could get up to like 3x value with some upside. He's been pretty consistent. Barron, loved him a couple rounds ago. He was like red hot, but he's so streaky, and he's been ice cold since. So he could heat up again. So could hit big if you throw him in a YOLO line, but that's the only thing. Like he's YOLO GPP line material. He's not someone that you play consistently. He's someone that you put in and hope for that ceiling game, and if you don't get it, then that lineup's dead. Looking at the front court, Gudaitis, he has had 3 straight games that have actually smashed, and he is too cheap at 65. Definitely part of the starting lineup, doing very well. Another mid-range cash play that's probably definitely close to 3x guaranteed. Thomas, Will Thomas had a bad game Monday, but he's been decent recently, so I'm going to give him another nod back in cash. I think he can get 20. That's 2.88. Even if he gets a little bit lower, like maybe like 18, I think he still hits value, so that's good. See who else we have. I still probably prefer, if I was looking at Thomas and Gudaitis, like Gudaitis 600 cheaper and has so much more upside. Pantika has been starting and hitting value, so like him too. Polythreus, he was good at one point, but he's no longer starting, but he usually gets around value, so you can play him in cash, but with all the other options on the slate, he's more of a GPP probably. Price is still a little bit high. And then Zubkov, he's been good too recently as a role player. You can get 9 to 11, so that's a cash value play at 44, like one of the safer ones that's consistently doing something below 5K. The only trouble with this game is you have the 2 slowest pace teams in EuroLeague playing against each other. So it's almost like if the first to 70 points is going to win this game. Whereas, if you're looking at the FS or another game coming up here where you got two of the Kimchi and Bayern coming up. The next game we're going to talk about, they're like second and fourth in pace, so it might be the first one to 100 wins that game, like we thought Kimchi and Maccabi was going to be last round. So when you have a slower paced game, you have less possessions, and with less possessions, you have less opportunities for fantasy points and any points in general. So none of these guys are priority, even though there are a couple nice possible fill-in options here. But Gudaitis, with all that said, still at 65, I think he's a great play for the forward position on this slate. Okay, let's look at Zalgiris. This is hard too, because I really don't see much fantasy value in this team, even if one or the two games don't play and it ends up being a 4-game slate. I think there's so many other better options out there. But let's go through it quickly. Just looking at the guards, Waka, Jakuris, Grigonis, Levekius, Vestura. They're all like GPP. Vestura, I'll get the value GPP player. They've had no consistency. They've hit value sometimes. They haven't. Gregorius has been the biggest decline recently, and they're up against really good defense in Zenit. We saw them shut down Henry, and they've shut down others. So guard is not someplace that I'd really look for here. Levekius has improved a lot recently, but still, again, it's this defense scares me. Looking at the front court, Hayes just makes it to cash value, so I gave him there, but it's not something that I probably would look at with others. And on the I'd rather play Gudaitis on the other side. I think it was 65, so let's say $400 and have somebody that I feel more secure about. But Levine, I'm not off of him. I think he's improved recently. If he can stay out of foul trouble, I think in this game he's got a good pathway to make value. And especially, it seems like Rubit has really he was eating into his minutes, and he seems to have declined a little bit recently. And he's also questionable. So if he's out, that definitely helps him even more. The only other person that I would consider here would be Gieben as a value play. Especially if Rubit's out, then he might get more. He's consistently getting like around 10 DK points. Okay, let's move on to game 3, the track meet. And that's Kimchi and Berlin. Like I said, it's the second pace team versus the fourth pace team. Just pull up pace here just to show you. So Baskonia's number 1, playing with about 73.3 possessions per game. And then Kim, Maccabi, and Berlin, FS. And then some of the slower ones down here are Olympiakos, Bayern, Zvezda, Zalgiris, and Zenit. Oh, going back, looking at this team, Shved, even though he was down last game, he was I think, it was just a blowout. He wasn't hitting his threes. He missed a couple foul shots. It was uncharacteristic of him. Let down. I think they were overmatched, but this game, they should be the aggressors against Berlin. I think most people will opt for Larkin and James if playing 2 studs, so he should be low owned. I like him in cash, but again, he's probably GPP play, because unless you're going to try to pair him with Larkin, it's going to be hard to choose him over Larkin. Unless Larkin's not playing on the slate, then Chevette would probably move up to be the number 1 guard I'd be looking at in cash. McCollum bounced back, but I feel 75 is too steep for him. The one that scares me the most here is Jokic coming back to the backcourt. He's a very good player. He injured his ankle preseason. He's getting really close to return, and I think that's going to hurt value. If Jokic is in, I see him as a GPP. Last year, he averaged about 18 DK points in 23 minutes. Bertans might be a value option if Jokic is still out, but if he's back in, then I wouldn't look at him at all. Waiting on the Booker news. That's going to be a big one. If he's back, then I'd see him at GPP come back from his injury. He's probably out of rhythm. He's missed several weeks. He did not play domestically, so that kind of points that potentially he wouldn't be playing this round. He might still be out. They usually like to, sometimes with injured players, work them in the domestic games before they get to the big stage of EL. So if he's out, Tim and Monroe continue to be great cash plays. But I probably would fade them if Booker was back. It's just going to muddy up this backcourt. And there's some other great options on the slate. Drubko starting, if he's starting, be a GPP option with upside. But it seems like Molina, who plays the same position, he's been hitting threes, been hot, he's been eating into his minutes, so he could be a decent value play. Looking at the Berlin side, they've got Eriksson out, injured. So, and also Brzezicki, but he really hasn't played this year, so he's not going to factor into it that much. So Eriksson out really helps Granger and Silva become really good cash plays. Like their price, 87, 77. So again, if you're not going two studs, there's two guys that you could put in and pay up more on forward, build a more balanced line if you're not going two stud guards. Molo could be a GPP, and especially with Eriksson out, he's been a little erratic, so don't completely trust him. And Matisek, he's could also maybe pick up a little bit of the backcourt minutes. At 39, he's good, but it seems like it's probably going to be mostly Granger and Silva, with Molo being like the third option there. Front court, I think they're all GPP. Maybe Giffey picks up a little bit with Eriksson out, but these guys have been so up and down. Now, bigs have been, I think, versus Kimmich, and if a couple of these games are canceled, I think I'll look more seriously at them in cash. But just looking at them here, like starting at center, Lammers had like a 30-point game last time out, smashed it. But the couple games before that, he was only in his teens for DK, so that's way below value. Sigma is probably about 1,000 too much at 93. I think he should be like anywhere from like 8 to 85. For his production to hit value. I said like Griffey's like right on the cash line. If he picks up some more like guard minutes, if he plays some two with Eriksson out, then that could help him a little bit there. Fanduel, he was on fire when he started the season, but each week it seems like little by little he's like declined. We've seen like regression after regression after regression. And last 4 weeks is to the point where he's like starting to fall under value, so I can't recommend him in cash either. Probably the one the best form here is Thiemann, and maybe he is the reason that Sigma and Fanduel, just because he came back from injury and has been and doing good and picking up some minutes, might have taken away from a little bit of their production. So if things fall into place and DK adjusts their salaries, so based on their new production with everybody back and healthy in the rotation, then might consider them again. Like, I love the pace of this team. It's a fast pace team, and they usually have a lot of possessions, score a lot of points, so that might help them also. But I just don't feel that I can really look at any of these 5 and like feel like warm and fuzzy about them in cash at this point, being a 6-game slate. If it drops to a 4-game slate, then I might change my mind and I feel a little bit more comfortable with them. So let's see here. Next up is another game that's going to be in question, and it's going to be Baskonia and Olympiakos. So this one does have a line, so it does make you feel a little bit more comfortable with it. Baskonia, they just played Monday. They lost to Zenit. So looking at this team, Vildoza has just been a solid cash play at 7,200. The last 3 rounds just averaging like 3x. So he's somebody else if you want to do balance with guard. Like he might be like Chaved Vildoza or Larkin Vildoza might be like a great combination to start with your 2 guards. And then Goditis at forward, and then fill in the rest. It should give you plenty of salary to play around with. Polaria had a good game Monday, but he has been good before that. So I still have him as a GPP just because like one game just doesn't sell me. I want to see some consistency before I start recommending players for cash. I don't want to ride the elevator up and down, up and down, up and down. So he's GPP with definite potential. I would prefer Peter in this, even though he doesn't start. He, after coming back from injury, has been super solid. He's 1K less and gets about the same amount, and that would put him at 3x. So it's somebody that I would like even more. So you're finding some really solid forwards here, like I said, Goditis at 65, Peters at 62. Some nice way to round out your lineups here. Jacuri's had some nice run of games and consistency recently, and I don't see that changing. So I think he's a cash play. He could get up, if he gets like 21 points, you get up to 3x. If he only hits like 17 or so, that's like still gets value. He's a good mid-range cash play. Let's see, anybody else that I missed here? Giriditis, I think he is way overpriced. At this price, he's closer to 2x than 2.5x. So I know he can be a good player and has potential, but that's just way too high of a price for me to consider him. Looking at like the great mid-range values on this slate, I just don't think paying up for forward with him is a decent option. Okay, so Olympiakos, see all the red here. They've got 5 guys out. I don't know if they're COVID or with injuries, but they might only have a rotation of like 7 guys who've actually played like EL games. So Levine Charles, Ellis, Vez, Charla, Harrison is probably the one that hurts them the most. This guy was drafted in the NBA draft, so just like Campo, he's off the team, so he won't be playing either. So it takes out 6 players right there. So looking at who they do have left, I think Jenkins and Lucas will get the start. But I really feel that their GPP plays, like Lucas is such a great player, but he's had such a disappointing year. It just seems like he's overpriced for his production. He's a decent basketball player, but when it comes to fantasy basketball, he's just not cutting it. See who else. I love McKissick. He's doing great off the bench in cash. I have him projected or like almost up to 4x. Like I think if this game plays and he gets in there, and especially if he starts, like he's somebody also that I might have to play 3 guards in this one, where either pay up for 2 studs and use him in the utility, or look at a stud Vildoza and then him in utility. So there's especially when you have 6 games and 12 teams, it's definitely a lot of good options, even though the total in this one's like very, very low. And I think it might just be the whole, if you look at some of the other teams that were off for multiple rounds and came back from COVID, some of them just got absolutely dusted when when they came back. So, and the pace for this game is going to be up for Olympiakos. Let's see, Baskonia. Yeah, it's the top team, and then you have such a pace discrepancy here too. So who's going to win? Is Baskonia going to speed them up, or is Olympiakos going to slow them down? We'll just have to see with that. So looking at the front court, Papa, he's been inconsistent this year, but definitely my favorite front court player for the opportunity on this team. Think he's got a chance to get up to like 3x with like all the other people missing. So definitely opportunity there. G Print, he's only got like 10 points like the last 5 rounds. So can that change with all these other guys out and Ellis is backup out and having to play more minutes? Potentially, but I think the guards are going to pick up the slack and K Papa. And Hassan Martin, I think has like potential also. I have him as a GPP. He was cash last round, but he struggles with a little inconsistency too. But I think he has the chance for like the 30-point game versus G Print. So definitely, if this game plays, there's and they're shorthanded, a place to look for to get some value in GPP. You might want to just stack like McKissick and G-Pop and H. Martin right there. It's like, it's half your team. I wouldn't go like a full-on stack here because, again, we have seen teams come back from COVID and be extremely rusty and just get absolutely destroyed. Bisconi is a fast-paced team, so they could, if everybody's hitting on the right cylinders and like Henry's back and playing like he's supposed to, the game could be like 90-50. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. Final game of the day starts at 2:05, so it's not like a huge stretched out window, and that is going to be Milan and Maccabi. Another decent paced game. Milan, good defense though, so I think they kind of slow Maccabi down a little bit. This crowded backcourt, as we saw a couple of weeks ago, where I said I just really didn't want to break it down because, we knew that people were coming back. Delaney was coming back from, I believe, his ankle injury, and then they added Punter to the team. And like, what was it going to look like when you have 7 guards on this team that have played? Well, Moretti, we could take him out of the equation because he like plays less than a minute a game, and Sin here was like kind of like just filling in for the time being, like when they were hurt, just as the back end rotational player. But so really, you had like 5 guards to look at and their minute breakdown. But I think after a couple of games, the picture's becoming clear. Delaney's back. He's starting. He's doing well. He's back to a cash play. Punter started and smashed last round, but I still miss GPP because I want to see more data than just 2 games. I don't feel comfortable saying, okay, yeah, you're a cash play because, you had one game that was 17, then you had another game that was 30, and I want to see a couple more just to make sure that there's a trend there. But there's definitely the upside is there, and 7,300 is not a bad price. Sergio Rodriguez is definitely continues to do well off the bench. Don't worry if you don't see him starting. He comes in and he gets usually enough to hit value there. So someone I'll continue to look at. The front court, Shields and Lede have shown some consistency. So they're cash playable. Hines does too, but he doesn't have much upside. He just is right at the cash line. So like his floor is cash, but his ceiling is also cash, but not enough for like a GPP win. Mikhoff coming back from the injury has improved, but he hasn't shown cash consistency yet. Datome is questionable, so if he plays, I think that might hurt this front court a little bit. He's a decent player, and if he comes in, let me change him from originally it said they was out, but let me see what that gives me. That column hidden accidentally here. Let's see. Okay, so let's take the O out, and we'll see here that he was averaging 21 minutes per game. So that's pretty decent a chunk to be added back in. So I definitely wouldn't say that he's a play, but I'm more concerned with him in play, taken away from Shields and McCoff and Leday a little bit. So finally, we have Maccabi. Again, I think they might get slowed down a little bit by this Milan defense. They've been pretty decent this year. Sizik was a letdown last round. And again, Milan plays good D. So I think he can get 24 and be right on the cash line. But I'm looking for a little bit more upside. And I don't think he has it in this matchup. Keller finally went off last game, but I think that was his ceiling game. I don't see him repeating it, especially against this good D. So I'm not on him other than a GPP possibly. Hunter, since he's been back with his face mask, has been about 11 to 13 DK points. So that's well below the cash line. So he's GPP because I know he has the potential. Bender's been starting. He's a little bit above the value play right now, but I think he's enough to get there. And he's a GPP. Kind of no man's land there. Like there's the really good value options, and there's really good options that are like less than $1,000 more that could probably get 3x, and I don't see him doing that. Looking at the guards, Will Becken and Bryant, they've been solid. Zoom is not back yet, so I think definitely be able to play them in cash, even though it's a pace down game against a strong D. They're not priority plays, but if they fit your lineup, I don't hate playing them. Dorsey not starting has really seemed to fall away the last couple of rounds. Chris Jones has fallen off a bit too below the cash line, but he's closer than Dorsey. So I think that wraps it up again. So I have to pay attention to the news to make sure all 6 games are playing. Those 2 games are in question. And that's why, it's if you want to hit us up and join our Discord, and you can go to fsidfs.com and you sign up for a day pass or for a package for EL, and in the Discord we'll update any injuries, any news. We'll give you a core. We'll answer any questions. Love interacting with our group there. It's been a fun group, and we've done well and made some good money so far this season. So look forward to that. And depending on when pricing and everything comes out for Friday's slate, we'll see if we get a video. But if not, then I'll have some notes up on our website, which is also part of the subscription. We get a full breakdown of each game and plays. So again, those of you in America, hope you have a happy, safe Thanksgiving. And those of you outside the United States, good luck in your contests, and hopefully you guys have some green screens at the end of it. Mega Ruler out. Peace.